You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button.
Of course, the biggest story around LSU almost 2 months ago now was the fact that Bryce Underwood decommitted from LSU and flipped to Michigan. We all know the story by now. Billionaire, his wife loves Michigan, drops $12 million on Bryce Underwood, and Underwood, who is as solid as you could possibly be to LSU, ends up at Michigan. It was so late in the process that LSU couldn't necessarily get in on a quarterback. All the top quarterbacks in the country at that point had been committed. The quarterback that was committed to North Carolina, briefly decommitted after Mac Brown was fired, but ultimately after Bill Belichick was hired, ended up recommitting and signing with North Carolina. So we kind of looked at who was available, and the top unsigned quarterback in the state of Louisiana was Emile Picarella. And it's a name we mentioned about a month ago, casually. Not that it was necessarily anything that was a done deal in any way. But just as to say that was a potentially a possibility if you're looking to add somebody that could be a development type guy that may be really excited to be part of the class. And on Tuesday morning, which as we learned was Emile Picarella's birthday because he tweeted about it, he committed to LSU as a preferred walk-on. Now, I do want to be clear. This isn't your common garden variety, hold a clipboard, walk-on. So if you don't know Emile Picarella's background, he started his high school career in Mississippi. And he played 2 seasons in Mississippi. And at that time, he was one of, in the early rankings, he was a top 10 quarterback in the country for the class of 2025, again, early in their process. And he had big-time offers, y'all. He had offers from Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Oklahoma State, Oregon, Kentucky, Houston, Pitt, Boston College, Louisville. He had some legitimate offers, right? Well, after his sophomore year of high school, so May of 2023, Picarella, their family, they moved to Baton Rouge, and he transfers to U High. And he becomes a 2-year starter at U High, at the lab school. And, of course, U High has become a great program. They got tons of talent in that program. Keelan Moses, who just, of course, signed with LSU, and a long list. Lamar Brown, who's the number 1 offensive lineman in the country for next year, is from U High. So he joined a very talented roster. And as a junior in 2023, the 2023 season, Picarella threw for over 2,300 yards and 34 touchdowns. He had a monster junior year. Comes back this year for his senior season, has a good season, but the stats were down. And if you're not familiar with the U High program, it's a very, very unfortunate situation that happened, but there was a clerical error with their transfer, and they ended up being banned from the postseason. So their season, which very likely would have, if not would have, been a season that ended in the Dome, ended prematurely because of really what amounted to a clerical error dealing with a transfer. And I was asking Jake Hester earlier today, if you don't know, Jake's boys go to the lab school. His oldest, Jackson, was on I believe, a freshman on the football team this year. And I was asking Jake about Emile Picarella. I was like, no, he's a really good player. There were some things this year where, some bad weather games, and there wasn't a lot of offense in some games. But anyway, all that to say, Emile Picarella is he's 6'3", 210. He's listed officially at 6'2", 210. Good size, good arm, good prospect. At one point was a top 10 prospect in the class of 2025, and ultimately decided to pass on scholarship, some smaller scholarship offers to be a preferred walk-on for the Tigers. As a matter of fact, in his tweet, he put, "Happy birthday to me. I can't wait to live out my dream. Thank you for the opportunity, Coach Sloan." He tagged Joe Sloan, Brian Kelly, Jordan Arsaman, Nathan Purvis, all in the tweet. But, a couple of things. Number one, it's there's two parts of this. It's the prospect and it's the quarterback room and how the numbers build out. The prospect is a guy that early in his high school career was very highly thought of. For whatever reason, the recruitment didn't really carry through his senior year. Joe Sloan, though, because Picarella plays on LSU's campus, they've seen him plenty, and this is a guy that is the number 40 quarterback in the country. So he's a consensus 3-star. It's not like this was a no-star prospect. He's a 3-star prospect who had smaller offers but just decided he would rather walk on at LSU than go play somewhere else. Now, this is not Bryce Underwood. This is not the transcendent type player that LSU thought they were going to have in this class. But remember, so the other part of this, the other component of this is, okay, the player, but then also the quarterback room. So just as you look in 2025, you've got Garrett Nussmeier coming back for a 5th year. But when you lost Ricky Collins to the transfer portal and A.J. Swan, you were left with 2 players. You were left with Nuss for his 5th season, and you were left with redshirt freshman Colin Hurley, who's only 17 years old. That was it. So you had to go into the transfer portal and add another guy, so to sort of fill the gap in the middle. So they add Michael Van Buren from Mississippi State. So now you have Nuss, Michael Van Buren, and Colin Hurley. But there's only 3, right? So you're a turned ankle away from really being in a bind. And sometimes you just need another guy that can be a quote-unquote camp arm, someone that can get out there and make passes when you're in practice and run the scout team and all that sort of stuff. And that may be the path for Picarella, at least early in his career, but I would present it to you this way as you look ahead. And all these are so hypothetical, and I understand it, but in an NIL era, nothing can be assumed as far as longevity. And one of the things that I said whenever you didn't get Bryce Underwood, and some of you pushed back on this, I said LSU's next starter after Nussmeier, I don't believe is on the team. And it wasn't in any way meant to be disrespectful to Ricky Collins or to Colin Hurley. But it's just to say that this is an era in which, number one, guys don't stay. And number 2, you have the opportunity always to go add veteran players. So, again, it wasn't a knock. But ultimately, we saw Ricky Collins leave. And now Colin Hurley's still here, but they brought in Van Buren. So the thought is Nuss is the quarterback in 2025. You have a quarterback battle in 26 with Van Buren and Hurley. But what if Hurley doesn't win that job? Does he go transfer? Could. I mean, not that I know anything about what his plans are, but just look at the circumstantial evidence around college football. It says that's what it is. So my point is, you can never miss a year. All that to say, the big picture, top of the funnel, you can never miss a year of adding a quarterback. You can't. And it's not to say that the guy you add is going to stay for 4 or 5 years like Garrett Nussmeier has. It's just to say that you have got to always be thinking about your numbers at the most important position on the field. And you lost 2 this year, so you had to add 2. You added Michael Van Buren, and now you've added Emile Picarella. Again, you don't want Emile Picarella to have to play as a freshman or even as a redshirt freshman in 2026. But if this is truly his dream, then there is a path where this guy who has the physical, the measurables, the ability, could stick around, could stay, and could eventually work his way into his opportunity. It's absolutely worth welcoming him as a preferred walk-on to commit to the program and to see what he may be able to come down the line. So Emile Picarella, a guy we told you about a month ago or so, as maybe a name to watch if you were looking to add a quarterback, did in fact commit to LSU as a preferred walk-on on Tuesday, and so he'll be with LSU for the 2025 season. We'll see what that future may hold. So the Tigers do in fact get a quarterback. It's a local kid there, and Emile Picarella. It's an interesting story in his own right.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.